Welcome. Hello, everybody. I am welcome to the Utah Safety Council. I am John Wojciechowski. I'm the president at the Utah Safety Council. Today is May the 6th, 2026, right? I have my date right. We're at Start with Safety. We are here today to talk about a bunch of things. But before we talk about the things, I want to thank everybody and mention that we had our open house ceremony ribbon cutting 2 weeks ago here at our new Sandy location. If you missed it, we have pictures galore. We have what is this called again, Fabiana? A QR code where you can go and see all the pictures, download all the pictures. And we have a 20-minute video I'd like to start with. So let's watch that. I'm with the Utah Safety Council, or I'm at the Utah Safety Council when I'm safe. Be safe, be safe at work, be safe at home, be safe on the road, be safe any place. All right, it's 43 seconds. If you want to watch the 2-minute version, please come in and we'll or 20-minute version, we'll show it to you. So thank you. Like I said 2 weeks ago, the Utah Safety Council safety is doing well. The Utah Safety Council is doing well. The building is just a manifestation of that. What it means for us and for our members and for Utah is that we're able to deliver safety better, more training, better training. We're going to scale it up and we're going to use our new standing location as a way to do that. So thank you. And thank you for being there. We have some bucket hats and fanny packs left over. So if you're in the area, please come on in and we'll get you one. So May, I just want to commemorate Cinco de Mayo yesterday and congratulate the Mexicans for beating the French back in the day in the town of Pueblo, where we're especially grateful to the heritage of the country of Mexico. Today is May the 6th, which is National Nurses Day. So again, thankful for what the nurses do in the healthcare industry. Is also Mental Health Awareness Month. We have some mental health first aid coming up in June that Yvette is going to talk to us about here soon enough. May is also Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So hug a Polynesian this month. It's also National Bike Month. So hug a bike when you see a bike. It's Small Business Week. Utah Safety Council, like most of our member companies, the Utah Safety Council are small businesses, and they are the living lifeblood of the economy in Utah, if not the United States. So it's Skin Cancer Awareness Month, so make sure you're visiting your healthcare provider, your dermatologist for those skin checks. May also commemorates a lot of college and high school graduations. We want to congratulate our very own JP Eastman for his graduation. He, in the 3 years he's been at the Utah Safety Council, has also been going to school for full time and earned his accounting degree. So congratulations to JP. It's also Military Appreciation Month, and we are scaling up and working more with Hill Air Force Base and Blue Star families, and we're excited about that renewed partnership. It's also Memorial Day on Monday, May the 25th, and we'll be closed that day. So always happy and excited for Memorial Day. And Sunday is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. May is a critical month for the Utah Safety Council. We have a lot going on, a lot of MSHA classes, OSHA classes. We have things happening every single day. Start with safety today, MSHA tomorrow. So we are here to better serve our member companies, and we're here for you. We know you rely on us. And so again, with our new building here in Sandy, we are committed to that. We're scaling up. We're excited. Thank you for being here. We're excited for May, especially excited for June as we go into June, which is National Safety Month. So more on that later. My time is up, but I'm going to invite Yvette Stephanie up to the podium to talk about all the other things happening in May.
You're good. Well, good morning, everyone. If we haven't met, I do see a lot of new faces today. My name is Yvette Stephanie. I am the Traffic and Emergency Care Program Manager here at the Utah Safety Council. So if you are looking to get training for first aid or defensive driving, I'm your person that you want to reach out to, as well as Mary, who's in our crowd today. People at home can't see her, but this is Mary. Okay, so I just want to go over a couple of reminders of events that are coming up. We are hosting our second mental health first aid course coming up June 4th and 5th. We are doing a 2-day course. It is split into 2 days. If you have questions about this course, please reach out to me. There's also a barcode that you can scan to register for this course. It is capped at 30 people, and this is filling up quite fast. So please, if you want to register, if you have questions, reach out to me today or as soon as possible. We have an amazing instructor. His name is Scott Martin. He's been here before. If you were at our last annual meeting, he was our speaker and he did such a good job bringing awareness for mental health in the construction industry. So if you guys are really interested, again, reach out to me or anybody here at the Safety Council. I would just want to remind you guys as well that we do offer a free service to the community, not just to members. This is to the community here in Utah, that we do offer a free education on installation, proper installation for car seats. If you have questions on installation or anything that has to do with car seats or child passenger safety, reach out to us. There's about 5 of us here who are certified technicians, so we can help you out or refer someone to us. So yeah. All right, and lastly, before I hand this over to Fabi, I want to remind you guys that we are still taking nominations for our annual awards happening in September. Please, guys, submit your nominations. If you don't know how or where to send it, just reach out to us and we can guide you through the process. But we are still getting plenty of them. We just want more, and we want to make sure we don't miss out on nominations or forget anybody. So come on, we want to celebrate safety with your industry. So reach out to us, submit your nominations. Deadline is July 23rd. Oh. If you guys really want to know what you're going to win, it's this here. Bragging rights, right? This is our new and improved award. So send your nominations over and we'll get you processed, I guess. All right, I'm handing this off to Fabiana now.
Thank you, Ed. My name is Fabiana, and I am the Marketing and Business Development Manager here at the Utah Safety Council. And today I'm going to introduce our guest, and let me tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Ken Knapton is an experienced CIO, CISO, author, and educator with a strong background in technology and cybersecurity strategy. A 7-time CIO, he specialized in risk management and the safe adoption of emerging technologies. He holds a doctorate in a big data governance, maintenance, and CISSP and CCISO certifications. Teaches graduates cybersecurity courses. He also is the author of Unveiling Tech Debt and Cyber Safety, where he focused on technology risk and cybersecurity. Please let me welcome Ken Knapton.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Fabiana, for that introduction. Appreciate it. I am super excited to be with y'all today. Hopefully, y'all can hear me just fine. It's always, a challenge making sure the technology works when we're talking about technology, but here we are. I apologize I couldn't be with y'all in person. I am just down the street. I'm down here in beautiful Pleasant Grove, just a couple of miles from y'all, but I wasn't able to get there to be there in person with you. So let me share my screen and we will dive into it. Okay. Y'all can see my screen? We're good? You can hear me? I assume so. Okay.
Yes, you're good, sir.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, uh, I was really excited to respond to this opportunity to come and chat with you guys because the way that this was brought up to me was specifically cybersecurity with technology, but really with a focus on AI. How is AI affecting cybersecurity, and how do we make sure that we remain safe with regard to our usage of technology in our organizations? Um, and interestingly enough, my first book, uh, written about 10 years ago, is called Cyber Safety. And so I've been in this cyber world. I've been in the cybersecurity world for a really long time. And I will say the introduction of AI is significantly affecting the cybersecurity world. So let's dive in and talk about that a little bit. I want to set the stage, first of all, with some statistics. It's important to remember when we're talking about cybersecurity that we're not talking about teenagers in their garage or in their basement, trying to hack into a system, or trying to do something nefarious. We're not talking about people in their time off, after hours, just poking around and seeing what they can do to disrupt a company's business. We're talking about an actual business. Cybersecurity, or I'm sorry, not the cybersecurity industry, the malactors, right? Cybercrime industry is an actual industry. And if you were to categorize it, it is the third largest economy in the world. Cybercrime is is or cyber criminals are making use of all of the same tools that companies and industries make use of to scale. So just like your company is utilizing technology to improve your workflows, to get better, faster, to scale, to reach more people, cyber criminals are literally coming to work every day to try to find ways to get into your data, to try to get into your networks, to try to get to information that they can leverage to make money. And they're very, very good at it. And AI is not necessarily it's not necessarily changing that industry. I would say the tactics that are being used are not necessarily any different than they were before AI. But what is happening is AI is accelerating their ability to move and their ability to enact the things that they're trying to do. So again, I'm not going to read through the slides completely, but just a couple of quick statistics here. $16.6 billion in cybercrime losses were reported to the FBI back in 2024. Global cybersecurity spending, so trying to prevent those losses, trying to prevent against those attacks, is a $212 billion business. A lot of the tactics that these criminals are using are, again, the same tactics they've been using for a long time. Ransomware, we're going to talk a little bit more about ransomware in detail in a few minutes, but ransomware continues to be a significant challenge. So 44% of the breaches in 2024 involved ransomware. And I do think it's important. This is one of the other roles that I have, by the way. I'm an IDC analyst, and for those of you who don't know IDC, it's one of the two kind of big analyst firms in the IT industry. There's IDC and Gartner, and I've got some statistics in here from both. But this is one of the IDC statistics that organizations that actually focus on cybersecurity, that have programs specifically focused on cybersecurity, outperform their competitors. And the reason for that is because this is a constant battle, and in order to fight that battle, you have to have that knowledge within your organization of how to be safe. How do we ensure that everyone that's using a cell phone, a laptop, a computer, whatever, right, that they are aware of the dangers, and not only of the attacks that are possible, but that they're aware of what they're working with, the data that they're working with. That's the most important thing when we're thinking about cybersecurity, is to recognize what is it that these cyber criminals are after. They are specifically looking for information that they can resell. They're looking for information that would be valuable to them. They're looking for information that would allow them to impersonate someone, or to to steal someone's identity, to go get loans on their behalf, or to get into your organization to get wire transfers sent across to someplace that you didn't intend, right? These are the things that they're trying to do. So employees that are dealing with that data, it's important for them to understand this is sensitive information that actually is really valuable. And I think often, because we deal with information so frequently in our organizations, I think a lot of times people just don't think about the value of this particular piece of data that they work with every day, that some cyber criminal may want that for some nefarious reason, right? The one thing to remember is, because this is an industry, cyber crime is an industry. And by the way, they are building all of the same type of SaaS type tools. So software as a service, they're building all the same SaaS type tools for cyber criminals that we would utilize in our business. So we would use, a SaaS tool for our HR system, or for our ERP, or whatever it might be. Cyber criminals have built a SaaS solution that will allow someone to go and create a ransomware, and they can use this SaaS solution to go and attack a specific company with ransomware. They don't have to build that ransomware anymore. They don't have to build the attack themselves. It's out there for them to just subscribe to and use, just like we subscribe to and use any other business application. There are deep fake solutions, and we're going to talk about deep fakes in a few minutes as well. And again, this is just a SaaS solution that cyber criminals have built and made available to other cyber criminals, so they can sign up and use this service to then go and create a deep fake and go attack some specific company. So that's what's happening in the cyber criminal world, in the cyber crime world. It's not necessarily that AI is changing any of these things. These are things we've dealt with. Ransomware for a long time, years and years and years. We've dealt with phishing for years and years and years. The challenge is that the speed is now increasing. And so the time that it takes for a hacker to get into our system, and even more importantly, once they're in the system, the time that it takes them to evaluate our network, to pivot from one machine to another, to find the information that they're looking for, and then exfiltrate that information out of our network and onto theirs, the time it takes to do that is severely shrinking. So you can see here just a couple of statistics around the speed. The phishing campaign creation. This is the cyber criminal trying to build an attack that they would send out through phishing. It used to take 16 hours. Now it takes 5 minutes. Okay. Deep fakes. There's a 223% increase in the speed with which they can create those deep fakes. So AI is really allowing us to move much, much faster. And the scariest statistic for me on this slide is that statistic at the bottom. And let me explain this for a second. So the time to exploit, the TTE, okay? This is a metric that we measure in the cybersecurity world. And the time to exploit means when a vulnerability is announced to the public, when a vulnerability is made known, how long does it take for that vulnerability to be exploited in the wild? Okay. And prior to 2024, the average was 32 days. So you had a month from the time that we all heard about a vulnerability, you had a month to patch your systems or to remove that application or to whatever you were going to do within your network, within your environment, within your company to protect yourself against that particular exploit. Okay. In 2024, that number turned negative for the first time. In other words, cyber criminals are exploiting vulnerabilities before they are made known to the public. And again, this is what AI is helping them to do. They're able to gather this information much faster. And this actually speaks to the fact that they are infiltrating these discussion groups, these companies, these advisory boards. They're infiltrating these areas where these vulnerabilities are discussed before they're made public. And so now these cyber criminals are able to exploit much, much faster than they did before. I was recently at a conference, and there was a Gartner representative there. As I mentioned, Gartner is the other analyst firm for the IT industry, apart from IDC. And the Gartner analyst, Paul Furtado, was the guy that was actually presenting it. And so this is what he said about that. This isn't a story about a distant threat. The story about how automation and generative AI are now giving actors the same power that used to require elite human talent, right? So we have to adapt. We have to get better and faster because they're getting better and faster. So if we look at the impact of AI across businesses, how are businesses being affected by AI being utilized in cybercrime? Social engineering continues to be number one. Now, I mentioned multiple times already, AI is not creating anything new for these cyber criminals. Social engineering has been their premier attack surface, attack vector for many, many years. And when we talk about social engineering, what we're talking about are those phishing emails that you would get. You get an email that says the prince of whatever has this, pile of money and you've been selected. You just have to give us your bank account information and we're going to send you all this money. So phishing, that was the beginning, right, of phishing. Phishing has evolved now to where the cyber criminals are becoming much better at learning about you and specifically learning about your company. So that's where this idea of social engineering comes into play, right? They're going to be going out to LinkedIn, looking at who is your CEO, who's your CFO, what are the names, who are the people involved, who's in your accounts payable department. They're going to gather as much information as they can about your company. And then when they do reach out to someone through a phishing email, they're going to be as specific as possible, and they're going to make sure that there's a sense of urgency. And whether it's phishing or whether it's smishing, which is SMS texting, I'm sure we've all gotten these texts from people who say it's from our CEO or from our CFO or whatever, and we know it's not. But whatever the mechanism is that they're sending that to you, they're going to create a sense of urgency. And that's playing on our human emotions. That's playing on our human reaction to say, oh, we've got to move really quickly on this. I don't have time to think about it. I just have to click this button. I have to go do this right now because this bad thing will happen if I don't. That's what they're playing on. So that's social engineering, right? They're playing on our human emotions. And then you can see these other areas that things have increased. The operational acceleration, the democratization of cybercrime. That's what I was talking about before, where there's these SaaS solutions and these other things out there that people can participate in. So everything has accelerated. Everything is just faster now with AI. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the specific attacks. I want to start with business email compromise. So I was just referring to this a minute ago. These attackers are going to look at LinkedIn. They're going to learn about your company. They're going to look at press releases. They're going to go to your website. They're going to research whatever they can about your specific company. They're going to learn as much as they can about the names, people, the roles, the industry that you're in, any news about potential deals or mergers or whatever, right? They're going to find out what they can learn about your specific company. Then they're going to initiate the contact, and this would be they're either going to impersonate your CEO, your CFO, or someone. They're going to send some kind of a phishing email to impersonate someone that you would trust. And then there's always going to be pressure to act quickly. This is urgent. We have to do this right now. Don't have time to wait. Please don't call me. I'm in a meeting. Go buy these gift cards. Give me the numbers. I need them. I need you to do this for me. There's always going to be some kind of urgent, like fast. We need you to do this right now, right? And in the more personal space, right, that they have grandkids, supposedly grandkids, right, calling grandma or grandpa, hey, I'm in this other country and I've been arrested and I need money, send it now. It's the same kind of thing. They're creating a sense of urgency. I need you to do this right now without thinking about it. Don't think, just do it. And then of course comes the payload, right? They're trying to get you to transfer some money, to get gift cards, give them the numbers, whatever it might be, right? So business email compromise has been around forever. Usually starts with a phishing email. AI is making this so that it's much more challenging to detect. It's not changing anything that the cyber criminals are doing. They're still doing all the same things. They're doing it the same ways. What it's changing is that historically, you could probably tell a phishing email if you were really paying attention. There would be maybe some poor grammar. You could tell that English wasn't the primary language. You could see maybe the sentence structure wasn't right, or you could see misspellings, things like that. So there were some pretty clear giveaways for phishing emails. Well, the cyber criminals now are using generative AI to build those phishing emails for them. So the email itself is no longer easy to detect that this particular email that I just received is a phishing email. What this means is that our employees have to be much more vigilant. Anyone that has access to email, we have to make sure that they recognize that if the CEO reaches out to them and the CEO never talks to them, but for some reason he or she is sending them an email saying, I need you to go buy some gift cards. They need to, stop and think, why would they be asking me to do this? Why is this coming to me? So we have to help our employees to just be aware, be more sensitive, be more curious when these things happen. It's also important to put in place just some standard cybersecurity practices as far as having two hands on the keyboard kind of thing, right? That you can initiate a wire transfer unless you have someone else come and verify that. You have to have two people to actually verify that this money should go out. You can have specific processes in place to verify that where you're sending it is actually the right place, right? So and these are all, they're not technical controls, right? I mean, they can be implemented with technology, but these are human controls. These are people being aware, having processes in place that people aren't going to bypass, and ensuring that it's more than one set of eyes on things like big wire transfers. So like I said, business email compromise has been around forever. It starts usually with a phishing email. Phishing itself, we have 3.4 billion phishing emails that are sent daily. This is not slowing down. And you look back over the years, and phishing has been a problem forever. And you think, well, why is it still a problem? Well, it's because it works, right? These cyber criminals are doing things that work. So we just have to be aware. And there are tools, also technology tools that you can put in place to look at your emails as they come in, and they're pretty good at detecting phishing emails as well. But at the end of the day, you can stop 999 phishing emails. And if one gets through the technology, right, and gets into someone's inbox, and that human being falls for it and clicks the link, you're still infected, right? Your data can still be exfiltrated. And we'll talk about the speed that happens in a minute here. So employee awareness programs, making sure that your employees keep security top of mind, is still the best defense. AI or not, having employees that recognize the value of the information they're dealing with, that understand and follow your processes around categorizing and protecting that data, and who recognize that when something comes at them that's urgent, and their first instinct is to act, that they need to just take a breath and think about it and say, why would my CEO be asking me to go get some gift cards for them? They have an administrative assistant, or they have someone that does that. Why would they be asking me to do that? These are all the things that because of the urgency, our human nature just kind of lets all these questions fly by and say, no, we have to go do this. So having employees be aware from the social engineering aspect, again, that's the biggest defense you're going to have. There's vishing and smishing as well. I talked about smishing. This is just the SMS version of phishing. So the initial contact comes through a text instead of an email. All of the same things apply. The only difference here is that our tools that we put in place for email won't touch that because it's coming through SMS. Now, cell providers will provide some kind of capability to look at those and to block them, but most of them still come through from the SMS text side of things. So there, it's just important to make sure that people look at the phone number. I've had this happen to me a couple of times. I'm sitting in an executive meeting, and I get a text from my CEO. Hey, Ken, I'm in a meeting. I need this from you. And I look across the table, and they're sitting right there. I know it's not from them. But looking at the text, I can also tell it's not them because it's not their phone number. Right now, I have their phone number, so I know that. Someone else in the organization may not have their number, and they may not be able to recognize that that's not coming from their CEO or CFO or whomever. But again, it's just making sure people are aware. The voice call, I want to pause on that one for just a minute. This is where AI is having a larger effect. And this gets into this whole concept of deep fakes. And we've seen deep fakes on YouTube and on TikTok and wherever, right? You can see where people can make these AI video creations of themselves with a completely different body or whatever, or singing like they can't hold a tune, but they can use AI to show themselves singing like Beyonce or whatever it might be. And that's all that's all fun, but the cyber criminals are able to replicate voices And the ability to spoof a phone number has been around forever. That's not new. It is extremely simple for me to make a phone call and make it look like it came from a different phone number. So if I know my CEO's phone number, I can spoof that phone number, and I can now use some tools that are freely available on the internet or cheaply available on the internet to mimic their voice. Now, I actually just did this with our CEO the other day. We have two CEOs, two founders, and we have a president. And I was trying to demonstrate to them just how easy it is to do this. And so I spent $10 and about 30 minutes. And in that 30 minutes, I scoured the web and I found I wanted to only use publicly available data. I didn't want to use anything that only an employee would have access to. So I scoured the web and I found podcasts, interviews, places where they had where their voice, where they'd been interviewed or something. So I got those, ran them through this tool, and then I have all three of their voices now. And then I created a voicemail message that looked like it came from them, telling me to, go to the accounting guy and have him transfer, X number of dollars. And then I played this for them and for the entire executive team. And everyone in the room said, if I'd gotten that message, I would have thought that was from them. And they were sitting in the room. They're like, that sounds just like me, right? And that was $10, literally $10 and 30 minutes. That's how easy it is to now spoof, to create a deep fake of at least of the voice of anyone. All you need is a couple of minutes of their voice. And if they've ever done an interview, if they've ever done a podcast out on the internet, their voice is going to be out there. So again, how do we defend against this? The defense is make sure people are aware. If your CEO calls you and leaves a voicemail message and says, go do this strange thing that I never would have asked you to do, people have to stop and think, why would they be asking me to do this? And verify, right? If you don't have their number, if you can't call them back, then go to someone else in the organization and say, is this real? Should I be doing this? And that's, again, it's the human side of this that really is the best defense. Speaking of deepfakes, I want to, maybe you've heard about this one, maybe not. This was a couple of years ago. It was in January of 2024, which again, things have only gotten better since then. But in January of 2024 is when this particular thing happened. So this particular employee was invited into a meeting, and they had been asked to do some transfers or whatever, some wire transfers. This was an individual in the accounting department. That's what they did. That was their job, was to do wire transfers. And so this particular employee got invited into a meeting. They went into a Zoom or a Teams meeting. It was a virtual meeting, and they're in this meeting with all of these other people on screen that they see on a regular basis. And in that meeting, their CFO instructed this individual to transfer $25.6 million to a specific account. And the employee did that. I'm in this meeting. I've got all these witnesses. The CFO just asked me to do it. I'm going to transfer that money. So they did. It turns out the entire meeting was a deep fake. Every face, every voice in that meeting, except for that person, was a deep fake. So these individuals that they interact with on a regular basis, the CFO, these other individuals that were there, they were all deep fake creations, and the entire meeting was a fake. And the sole purpose of that meeting was to get this one individual to transfer the $25.6 million. So 15 transfers, 5 accounts. it went for a week undetected until they realized what had actually happened. And that's an actual case study from 2026. So how do we defend against video deepfakes? The video deepfakes actually are a little bit easier than just the voice deepfakes, because again, with the voice, you're on the phone, you hear someone, and it doesn't even have to be like a pre-recorded voice message. AI has progressed to the point where I can be talking to you on the phone and my voice can be the voice of whoever it is, or I can be typing into a computer all my answers, and so I can have a natural conversation with someone else on the phone, and they will think that it is my, the CEO, CFO, whomever. So again, the voice side of this is a little more challenging. You would have to, ask the person something that only they know, or you'd have to call them back, or call someone else and say, is this right? But on video, there's actually a few areas where video deepfakes are still challenged. And by the way, I will also, just a quick tangent here. Deepfakes from a video perspective, these are not just being used like the case study that I just talked about. These are not solely being used to get someone to transfer money. There was another case just recently where a woman in New York City would create a deep fake and apply for jobs, remote jobs. And they would end up hiring this person. And they'd never actually seen the woman. The only thing that they'd interacted with was the deep fake that she created to go through these job interviews virtually. And then once that person was hired, she would then farm that job off to someone in North Korea or someone in another country. So someone somewhere else that has never even interacted with the hiring company was now doing the work, the remote work. And she'd pay them a small portion, and then she'd keep the paychecks. And she had this entire setup in her apartment in New York City with desktops and laptops. I mean, it looked like a poor man's data center. The picture that you would see of her apartment, and she was doing this over and over and over, creating a deep fake, getting the deep fake hired, shipping the work off to someone else, and then doing it again. And she's collecting all these paychecks and just getting hired for all these jobs. And the only way that they caught her, it wasn't because anyone figured out that these were deep fakes that were being interviewed. The way that they caught her was because of her electricity usage.
I think my sound just switched. I'm going to go off
We can still hear you, Kat.
use the other sound. Okay. So that was the only way they found it, was from the electricity usage in her apartment in New York City. Other than that, the deepfakes were great. So how do you go about detecting a deepfake? If you are interviewing a candidate and you think they might be a deepfake, or if someone is asking you to transfer money and you think they're a deepfake, how do you go about detecting? Well, there's a couple of things on the slide here that just talk about what you can look for. The lighting around the individual, that's still not perfect from a video perspective. And these are all going to get better, by the way. These will work today. I can't tell you that these will work in 6 months, but right now they do. Another thing is you can ask someone to put their hand in front of their face like that. Because if you do that through a deep fake, it struggles to maintain consistency of the video. Also profiles, just to prove I'm not a deep fake, zero profile. So having someone turn and see the profile, that's also a challenge for deep fakes right now. So there are some things, and I mean, granted, it's a little awkward, If you're talking to who you think is your CFO, and you say, "Hey, would you just give me a profile for a minute," right? Or would you throw your hand in front of your face? But these are ways that you can determine that you are interacting with a deep fake as opposed to a real person. There's also some other things that you can do. Have a specific, like you would with your family. Maybe you have a secret, password for your kids. Don't get in the car unless someone gives you this password. You could have something like that in your company that, hey, this is what we use. Now, that isn't extremely secure from a security guy. I'll tell you, that's like, posting your password on the door and saying everybody uses the same password. So it's a small step. It's not one that I would say is the best way to go. Okay, so those are deepfakes. Let's talk about some of the other. Challenges. Shadow AI. This is a big one, right? Because everybody is excited about AI. Everybody is interested in what AI can do to help them accelerate their job. And one of the challenges as a CIO is we want to know what's being utilized in our organization and where data is moving within our organization and who's using that data. And so as people bring in AI, even if it's just generative AI, as they bring that into the organization, if they're sharing information with that AI, do we know for sure whether that particular system is taking the information that we send it and then using it to train its system? Most of them do. Now, when you buy it from an enterprise perspective and roll it out as an enterprise, you buy the enterprise version, there are some more controls there. Personal versions don't have those controls. And so within our organizations, do we have people, and I would say the answer is yes, no matter where you work, do we have people signing up for their own AI solution from whatever AI company and then using that in their work? So that's what we call shadow AI, just like shadow IT, right? People bringing things into the organization that we don't know. So one of the statistics from IDC, the place that I am an analyst for, that 99% of organizations report sensitive data is already being exposed to AI tools. So like I said, whether you know it or not, I would suspect that your company has an AI data leakage problem today. And so it's important to recognize as an employee that I can't just bring whatever tool I want into the organization and put company data into that system. This goes back to what I was saying early on. One of the best ways to be safe, one of the best mechanisms in an organization is to teach people the importance of the data they're dealing with. And this data, you should never put into an AI. This data you can, this data you shouldn't. Right? So it all comes down to the human element, the people using the systems. Make sure they understand what's appropriate and stuff. I'm gonna skip through a few of these quickly just because we just have a few minutes left and I want to make sure we have time for some questions. But supply chain is also a big issue. And when we talk about supply chain, we're talking about these third parties. Your data can be sent out to other vendors. Vendors may have some of your data in order to provide services for you. And so their security affects your security. So it's important to understand how your data is being utilized by the vendors that you employ. And if you are buttoned up from the cybersecurity perspective and your vendors are not, and you're sharing private data with them in order for them to do their job, then that's the weak link in the chain. So it's important to understand how our vendors are dealing with the data that we give them as well. Credential stuffing attacks rose. Credential stuffing attack, again, this is something that is very, very, It's very easy to scale because of AI, just because of automation, actually. So a credential stuffing, just so you understand what that is, credential stuffing attack is if your credentials are exposed somewhere, and so now your email and password are now they've been caught up in some breach somewhere, wherever it might be. They now end up on a list over here, and there's now a list of millions and millions of usernames and passwords. Well, we know, and cyber criminals know, that humans tend to reuse passwords. And so they say, well, if this email address at one time was associated with this password, then I want to see if that just happens to give me access to something else. And so they'll buy a list of exposed email addresses and passwords. And then the cyber criminal, again, from a SaaS solution, you can just go buy these lists now, right? So they'll buy the list and they will go point it at XYZ Bank, and they'll just automatically just run through this email address and this password. Does it let me in? This one, does it let me in? This one doesn't let me in. And it'll just go through all however many usernames and passwords they have. That's called credential stuffing. They have no idea if that bank is actually associated with that email address. They have no idea if that person has an account there or not. They're literally just throwing the spaghetti against the wall to see which ones stick. They're just throwing these credentials against whatever system just to see if one of them works. And then if it does, then they go back and do their exfiltration. So credential stuffing attacks are growing as well. And the way to resolve that, or the mitigation for that, is change your password. Use different passwords for different things. Don't reuse passwords. Use a password manager. And in your companies, you can put a password manager in place so that people can have different passwords for everything. They don't have to remember them. But that's the best way to mitigate credential stuffing or those types of things. Ransomware. Okay, so this is the last kind of big topic that I want to talk. So ransomware, I said before, has been an issue forever. So let me explain first what ransomware is in case you don't. Ransomware is when an attacker will gain access to your system. They will find your file storage, and then they will encrypt every file in that file storage. And so everything is now encrypted. When you go to access a file, you can't, because it's locked, right? It's encrypted. You can't access it anymore. You can't open it in Word or Excel or whatever application it might have been. It's locked. And then they put in that folder a new file that says, README or something like that. So you open that file up and it says, okay, all of your files have been encrypted. Send us, X number of dollars in, cybercoin, Bitcoin, whatever they're going to use. That's not, they're not going to have you put in your credit card. It's usually going to be Bitcoin or some kind of digital currency. But give us this money, and then we will give you the decryption key so that you can decrypt all your phone. So that's what they do. It usually starts with a phishing email. Phishing email is how they get in. So again, cyber security awareness, not clicking on links you're not supposed to is one of the best defenses against this. The dwell time is how long it takes for these malactors to be on your network to figure out where to encrypt data and how to go about doing that before they actually pull the trigger and make it happen. Then the exfiltration, they can actually steal the data before they encrypt it, and they do this because they're going to get paid twice. They're going to ask you for ransom to decrypt all your files. So you pay that ransom, they decrypt your files, and then they're going to come back to you a couple of days later and say, oh, by the way, before we encrypted your data, we copied it. We exfiltrated that data. And we now are going to publish this information, this IP that your company doesn't want to publish, or we're going to expose some information about your executives that are in these emails, or whatever it is. And so pay us again so that we don't do it. And then they might come back a third time and say, hey, now that you've paid us twice, we know you pay us one more time and we'll actually delete your data. So they're going back to the well over and over and over to get paid again and again and again. So what is AI's effect? This ransomware has been around forever. So on this slide, we see the average dwell time is 11 days. Median ransom demand, 115,000 per incident. Well, the dwell time has significantly reduced because of AI. 10% of the ransomware incidents that were reported in 2026 so far, dwell time has been 2 hours. 2 hours from the time they get in until the time they've exfiltrated your data and encrypted your files. 25% within 24 hours. So this is what AI is doing for the ransomware world. It's allowing them to move much, much faster. Okay, that's all that I was gonna talk about from the security perspective. I just want to say one last thing. I talked about the negative time to exploit. This is another report that was generated from a firewall company. The attacker success is rarely about zero-day exploits anymore. Across the incidents responded to in 2025, we found that more than 90% of incidents, and this is the critical part, preventable gaps in coverage and inconsistency applied controls directly contributed to the intrusion. So the bottom line of this whole thing is AI is accelerating cybercrime, but it's not changing it. And the best defense is all the same defenses we've had before. Cybersecurity awareness, security controls, and just your standard cybersecurity practices. So with that, I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to take any questions if that would be appropriate.
There we go.
Hey, thanks, Ken. If you can hear me, I'm curious about these cyber criminals. Where are they coming from? How are they getting trained? Homeschooled, or is it more institutionalized or training these criminals? Like, where are they getting the advanced knowledge and skills to pull these on off?
I can barely hear. Sounds like someone's trying to ask a question, but I can't hear it.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me, Ken?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, John was just asking if you knew where the training kind of comes in for this, where they're being recruited, and where are they coming from, the criminals?
Where the training comes in for the cyber criminals?
Yeah,
Or for the cybersecurity?
the criminals specifically, like who are they?
It's a wide range. I mean, there are still quite a bit of nation-state attackers. There's an old saying in cybersecurity that there's only two types of companies in the world: those that have been hacked by China and those that don't know they've been hacked by China. So there are certainly nation-state actors out there that are attacking for various reasons. But now, like I said in the beginning, this is just an industry. This is literally just a business. And I was listening to a journal podcast just the other day about this teenager. He was just going to college, and he just kind of fell in with these kind of would-be hackers, and it just opened up this whole world to him. And he chose to go down the ethical hacker route, but he could have very easily have said, no, I'm gonna, there's a lot more money over here, I'm just gonna go down that path. So they're all over. They're not just other nations that we're talking about. These are, there's the dark web. Even on the regular web, there are places where people can go to just learn about hacking. And just like any other entrepreneur, right, they can start learning how to make money by hacking. And then they start down that path and learn about the SaaS tools, and then they're in the thick of it.
Yeah, we have two more questions here.
Two more questions here.
Is it the mic?
Okay.
Yeah, let's bring this around.
Who's first?
Thank you very much. A question that I have, is there any kind of insurance that companies can use to protect themselves, whether it's using a credit card that protects against this, an insurance policy? I mean, how would people recuperate the losses that take place with these cyber hacks?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a challenging answer. There is such a thing as cybersecurity insurance, and it is worthwhile to get cybersecurity insurance, and this will protect you against many of these things. The problem, however, is that there are specific clauses in cybersecurity insurance that will say things like, if this is a nation state attack, then we're not good. If this, there's lots of clauses in there that the insurance companies are very hesitant, very reluctant to actually pay out on these policies now, just because of the immense amount of the losses. So that's still shifting, that's still changing a bit. So that's one avenue. The other is really to recoup your losses. The other is really just to make sure that you report it. You should report any cyber incidents to the FBI. They have great resources to help move very quickly to maybe recoup some funds that have been transferred. I worked for a bank once, and we actually had some money that was transferred. We reported it very quickly. We went to the bank very quickly, and we were able to get that money back before it was gone. So moving quickly and engaging the appropriate resources is really the best option. Cybersecurity insurance is out there, and it's still worthwhile, but moving quickly is the best one. And that comes down to detection. It means you have to be able to detect these things.
While I walk this mic over to our next question, my quick question is, how do we identify the AI tools that are safe to use within our businesses, or the employees within the business? How do we identify those tools?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So this was another, first of all, just some research, right? It just takes, look at the tools and see, is there an enterprise version of the tool that provides some security that, hey, we're not going to use your information to train our AI. The data is not going to go outside of your environment. There are what we call RAG tools, retrieval augmented generation, that will look at data in your environment and not exfiltrate that data in order to have it participate in the AI generative AI process. So all those types of things you'd want to look at. But I actually just went to another seminar recently, and I was given a prompt that is really helpful, and I'd be happy to share that with anybody if they wanted. But essentially what happens is, if someone comes to you and says, hey, can I install this tool here? You take this prompt and you put it into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever generative AI tool you use, and it will ask you certain questions. What data is being accessed? What do you know about this tool? What's it going to be used for? Who's going to use it? It's essentially a questionnaire, but then we will use AI to answer those questions and come back and say, okay, this tool is risky, or it's not risky, and here's what we recommend before you use this tool. And that actually has become very, very helpful. Use AI to help you figure out whether these other solutions should be implemented in your environment or not.
Thank you so much for all the information you've given us today. I have a quick question about when we receive those phishing emails or messages. What do we do on our end? Like, should we just ignore the message? Should we delete it? Sometimes when you open the text message because you think it's a client, you just delete it and report it as a spam. But is that enough? Have they had any access to anything in your phone? Or yeah, what can we do in that kind of case?
Yeah, that's another great question. And those are they're two different answers. So let's start with the smishing answer, the SMS question. An SMS message coming to you typically does not have any type of payload. It simply is a message that really what happens with those is they call it there's pig butchering is what they call that. They're going to try to establish a relationship with you, and oh, I didn't, I texted you, I didn't mean to, but hey, let's be friends. And then later on down the road, they get you to invest in something and steal your money. That's called pig butchering. So in that case, there's no payload. Just delete it, report it as spam, and be done. And even reporting it as spam isn't going to do much because those malactors are just going to go get another phone number and just do it again. So there's really not much you can do there except just delete it and don't act on it. Email is a little bit different. With email, certainly if there's an attachment and you have opened the attachment before you realize it's phishing, then you are likely infected. And so the first thing you'd want to do is go and clean off your system using some cybersecurity tools to do that. Clicking on links, you're also almost immediately going to be infected. If you simply open the email, 95% of the time, you will be okay to just delete it and nothing has happened to your system. There are some cases where some things can happen if your email settings on your application are not set to the most restrictive level. There are some cases where just opening the email can actually cause something to happen. That's rare, but it can happen. So yeah, the best thing is just delete it. If you think it's phishing, delete it. Don't even open it. If you do open it, don't click any links. Don't hit unsubscribe. That the unsubscribe link is just another way for them to get the payload onto your computer. So the best thing to do is just delete it.
Thank you, Ken. Do you have any more questions? Okay.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Zeleita. My question is, are any different between Gemini or Leo or ChatGPT?
There are definitely differences. From a cybersecurity perspective, there's not many differences. The most important thing when you're talking about generative AI, and that's what you're talking about here, is the generative AI solutions. And that's what most people are bringing into the organization, right? They go out and get their own private subscription and then use that to help them with their work. The biggest mitigation there would be to purchase an enterprise version of that solution, whether it's Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, Copilot. Because the enterprise versions usually will provide some security for the organization. And they'll put the protections in place to say, look, we're not going to train ourselves on the data that comes in here. But the private versions, the individual versions, usually will train themselves on that data. And that goes across the board.
All righty. Any more questions? No? We don't have any questions in the chat, do we? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for sharing your knowledge and your insightful information. This was very informational, so don't be scared. But thank you for your time, Ken. For our next Start with Safety, it's going to be on June the 2nd at 10 a.m. here at the Utah Safety Council office, and it's National Safety Month. So be here. We have some special webinar as well. Thank you so much and be safe.